here's your host, Alex Garrett.
All right, well, firstly, I want to give a big thanks to Lucas Ferrara, who is putting this podcast on the map in prime time on AM 970 The Answer. He filled in for Dottie Herman today, and on Iron Real Estate, this podcast got a mention. So thank you, Lucas, for that. But there is some heavy news I want to talk about, because a couple days I came on here and said, hey, you know what? Israel's in trouble. Hezbollah is continually attacking. For God's sakes, they even attacked Nazareth, the birthplace of Jesus Christ. And there was no outcry about that. There's no outcry that Israel had to intercept Hezbollah missiles in Tel Aviv. Well, you know what Benjamin Netanyahu and the brilliant minds at the IDF did to stand up for themselves? They went and attacked the Hezbollah leader. And I want to say it right, although he doesn't deserve to even get his name pronounced right at this point. But Hassan Nasrallah killed by IDF airstrike in Beirut. And while many will probably spin this as a look at Israel continues to attack Beirut and Lebanon, and they continue to blow up different things, and look how many civilians, they are getting terrorists. And if you can't get behind the fact that they are killing terrorists, then what soul do you have? If you want to continually sit there and complain about Israel instead of seeing the good they're doing by killing off Hezbollah leader and other Hamas leaders as well, then, don't have a seat at the table. Because if you're not going to see the good in what Israel's been doing, even with the pager attacks, there I said it, the pager attacks killed off Hezbollah leaders. The pager attacks were a huge, ingenious move, actually, to get rid of terrorists. We are sorry, and I think we all should be sorry for the loss of life. But and again, you can bring me down to 2 stars from 5 stars on the show. My thought is, on October 7th, not many people really called Israel innocent for being kidnapped and attacked and raped and pillaged. So if you're going to call out the innocent life of one country, you better damn sure call out for the protection of innocent life in Israel. If you're going to say free Palestine, well, free Israel from Hamas and from Hezbollah. And you know what? If America's going to flip-flop, it looks like the IDF's got it on their own. Because they just killed off a Hezbollah leader. They killed off a terrorist. And if I have to remind you that's a good thing, that's a problem. But they did. After his fiery speech at the UN, the IDF, him being Benjamin Netanyahu, the IDF stepped up and killed off a Hezbollah leader. Good for the world, good for Israel, and good for America. I had said the other day, we can't have a city in crisis, we can't have a Washington in crisis, and we certainly can't have Israel in crisis all at the same time. That just does not work for the safety of anybody. So to see the IDF do this and kill off a Hezbollah leader is massive. It's huge. And it might be controversial to say, but free Israel from Hamas, and they're going to do it themselves. Free Israel from Hezbollah attacks, and they're going to do it themselves. And they're going to do it because they see that America is maybe supplying some weaponry and some dollars, but they're not overly committed to protecting and defending alongside Israel. That's the gist I'm seeing. Look, I love chopping it up about sports adaptability and life and accountability. I have it one leg up. But this is a serious thing that I have to address. Because it's a good thing. For once, since October 7th, good things are happening for the Israelis, for IDF. They've been under attack from Iran, from Hamas, from Hezbollah. Finally, nearly a year later, they're not putting up with the bull crap. And they're taking their efforts into their own hands and saying, we're going to kill off this Hezbollah leader. And they did. So that's some good news. And that is a one leg up story that I want to cover today. Because I'm tired of hearing the rhetoric against Israel. I'm tired of hearing how the innocents, and, we can all mourn the innocent life lost in Palestine and in Lebanon. But that should come with acknowledging there are innocent hostages that have been killed. There are innocent Israelis and Israeli Americans who have been going through hell. And that they aren't mourned as much as they should be. They aren't mourned as much as they should be. And then I read from Mark Goldfeder. This is an interesting story. The DOJ is lawyering up. I have to talk about this. Now I'm going to get him on the show. Against the victims of October 7th. Are you hearing about this? I don't know if you're hearing about this because it was in this op-ed. And this article was from Mark Goldfeder and Eugene Kontorovich. They write, the Harris-Biden administration is arguing in federal court that lots of people are above the law. In particular, get this, the many employees of the UN who helped Hamas build its terror facilities and launch its genocidal pogrom on October 7th. Some victims of the October 7th massacre actually filed suit in New York. Did you know about this? Where the UN is based against the UN and Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees, also known as UNRWA, alleging UNRWA and its officials have aided and abetted Hamas. There's evidence of collaboration between the UN staffers and Hamas, and they were fired, sure. But I am glad the victims of October 7th are taking it many steps further. Because then UNRWA Commissioner General Peter Hansen said in 2004, I'm sure there are Hamas members on the UNRWA payroll, and I don't see that as a crime. This was the then Commissioner General, Peter Hansen. So the UN didn't see that as a crime back in 2004? 20 years later, they write, many UNRWA staffers participated directly in the October 7th terror attack, while others imprisoned and tortured the hostages afterward. The United Nations, which claims to be dedicated to advancing human rights, has pledged that it will waive any claims to immunity for acts of terror. But it responded to the victims' lawsuit by invoking immunity for itself and its employees. And the U.S. DOJ has joined the effort, filing a submission to the U.S. District Court arguing that UNRWA and its workers should have absolute immunity from the lawsuit. Our own DOJ is working against the victims of October 7th. Where are you hearing that anywhere else? Where are you hearing that? I was getting into this whole thing with Arthur Engeron, but that can wait for another episode. Because where are you hearing that the DOJ is going up against the victims of October 7th? Maybe not anywhere else, because nowhere else was reporting this. And the DOJ is in fact lawyering for some of the attack's perpetrators. I'm having heart palpitation just talking about this. It's very enraging. The DOJ letter asserts that UN officials have immunity under the 1945 International Organization Immunities Act. But these were directly involved with the perpetrating of October 7th. And this administration is defending the UN Hamas terrorists. That's what Mark Goldfeder and Eugene Kontorovich are talking about. This is disgusting. This should make not one person, Jewish American or not, pay their taxes. Because our taxes, I talk about accountability on the show, our taxes are going into this bullcrap. That the DOJ is standing with UNRWA and those who perpetrated October 7th. I don't usually raise my voice on here, but you have to be outraged as I am, right? Thank you, Mark Goldfeder and Eugene Kontorovich, for talking about this in the New York Post. It's horrific. It's absolutely horrific and needs to be called out. And that's why here on One Leg Up on News, we're calling it out. You would want a DOJ that's for us, not against us. And when you're against the victims of October 7th, and hell, if you're the Pentagon cutting plea deals with terrorists from September 11th, and you're not with us there either, what faith do we have in this administration? What faith do we have in this administration? And you might say, well, Alex, they removed the plea deals. They're going to be back to sentence to life. Okay, but the person that originally did the September 11th plea deal is not fired as far as I could tell. Lloyd Austin should have fired her. And Merrick Garland and the DOJ for outright raiding Mar-a-Lago and everyone around Trump. And I'll go further to say dealing with this Mayor Adams thing is at the same time saying, oh no, the DOJ is going to stand with the UN Hamas collaborators. Everybody should be outraged about this. And I'm hoping that Mark Goldfeder on before the anniversary of October 7th, the very somber anniversary, in which there are still hostages unknown where they are. There are hostages that have died. And I am disgusted. I am disgusted reading more into this story. And you should be too. And I'm going to post this link. And I'm going to tag the UNRWA if they have a Twitter account or X account. Because while we can celebrate Hezbollah's leader being killed off by the IDF, the U.S. is not helping anymore anyway. While we can celebrate the Hezbollah leader being killed off by the IDF, there is no way we can say the U.S. is joining that celebration when right behind Israel's back, they're now siding with the UN workers who helped make October 7th Hamas attack happen. I get why Henry David Thoreau did what he did and got thrown in jail for it. He wanted to pay taxes to something that was a worthy cause. When you pay taxes, you're paying into this bullshit. There, I said it. And this means we need a further change in November. Because here we are, the Harris-Biden administration, allowing illegal immigrants to come into our city, and now saying those who perpetrated attacks on Israel on October 7th have immunity. Spread this podcast out. Share it out. Because I bet you won't hear it anywhere else, really, that the UN is being told it's okay. You have immunity for collaborating with Hamas. As the victims of October 7th cry out for their loved ones. It's very concerning. And it should concern you too, when our own DOJ is against our interests and against the interests of Americans who are looking for answers, who are looking for justice from the Department of Justice. The U.S. Department of Justice, especially working with the United States, not the enemy. God, November can't come soon enough. It can't. And if this doesn't put you over the edge about what the Harris-Biden administration is doing, I can't tell you what will. So my advice to you is, if you're hearing this for the first time, just keep reading. Just keep reading the dailies. Keep reading news outlets. If you need to download Press Reader and find it out that way, that's good. They are a great source. You can download the Post and other outlets on your phone for just $2. And those $2 could tell you something like this. Could show you something like this. I have to enjoy a Yankee game today. I can't keep stewing about this. But now that I know about it more, I will update you on how this is going. Because this is not a story you just post and run. This has to be followed. How the DOJ is going against the victims of October 7th. Behind our backs. Well, let's put it in front of the American people and say, this is what the DOJ is doing. Do you approve of that? On November 5th, will you approve of what they're doing now? Because if... I won't even go there. I don't even want to say if you're voting for Kamala, you're voting against the Jewish people, because that just feels anti-Semitic to say. But, if you're voting for her, you're voting for this act of injustice for the victims of October 7th. And someone's got to step in and say, enough's enough. Imagine this. President Trump gets raided. Mayor Adams' whole administration's in chaos. Yet the victims of October 7th can't even get a freaking break. Can't even get justice. The more I think about it, the more I want to talk about this, because it's so enraging to me. That we're going to indict the mayor of New York City, first time ever, but for the victims of October 7th, no, we're siding with the UN and their workers who collaborated with Hamas. Ryan, cut my mic. I'm done. I can't deal with this anymore. It's pissing me off. But I will keep following it. And I will have Mark Goldfeder on. I'm so glad they spoke up about this. And the link to the full story is going to be in the description below. The UN, the DOJ, in collaboration to hide, to keep immunity for the workers that planned October 7th, while our mayor is indicted and our city's in chaos. And oh, by the way, Trump has like all these legal things against him. But the October 7th victims can't get a break. The families can't get a break, can't get justice. We'll find some justice here at the One Leg Up Network. I'm Alex Garrett. Throughout it all, enjoy your Saturday. Please, enjoy your weekend. But just think about this as we move forward into October and November.